It says it's on. Okay. That says it's working. Now it's working. So weird. So weird. Dude, it's like I looked to check to see that was on and it was on, but now it's not on and shh. You be quiet, mister. You hush. There we go. So anyway, once again, not a flawless start to my stream here because I'm sitting here just chatting it up with you guys and yeah. You know, I need to check that beforehand. I need to just get in there and check those microphone functions beforehand. And my noise canceling software, even though it looked like it was on when I checked in the system tray, needed to be restarted. So that's just a weird thing. But anyway, I think we are off and running now and in good shape. And I can just, I'm going to set my windows up here just for chat windows so I can see everybody. Facebook and YouTube. And there we go. So we've got YouTube, we've got Facebook. Oh, wait, there's a message on Facebook. Let's see. Thanks for, oh, well, I already saw that message. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, go away. I don't care about that message now. How do I get rid of that? I don't like this. It won't let me get rid of it. Get rid of the messages. Okay, there. Is that, wait, no? Okay, Facebook is just jank. That's all I'm going to say. It is jank. Is that how I do it? No. Facebook is just a crappy thing. It doesn't work well. It's like if you click anything else to get back to where you were, like I got this little window open here and I just want to get rid of that. There we go. Good grief. It's so not intuitive. You know, for the audience that is a Facebook audience, you would figure it would be more intuitive, you know, because it's like people like me who are older and don't want to have to figure this crap out. But nope, there it is. Anyway, it is what it is. I did turn off, I think I turned off my VPN, so I won't get that annoying welcome to the chat room message over and over again. And we're good. We can move forward with our lives, which is awesome. So let me catch you up a little bit on what has been going on here in the shop. I don't really need that. I don't know why I need to have that up all the time. Well, unless I take a break, I have to leave and I hit it changes screens for me. So Monday, I have to think of what day it is because, you know, it's Wednesday. So on Monday, I was talking about how I had bought a new oscillating orbital sander. I guess that's what it is, an orbital sander, which is, you know, a little 5-inch thing. Not the most expensive tool, but really critical for what I do in my shop. You know, and it uses these, you know, the little sanding pads like this. And it's what I use for the majority of my sanding. And my poor little skill sander just kind of gave up the ghost and I needed to replace it. And this is just a quick recap. I went and bought a rigid from Home Depot, brought it home, and that thing was garbage. It was horrible. I mean, it vibrated and stuff, but it barely turned. I mean, I would put it down on the wood and it would be like, turn. It was terrible. I'm used to the massive spinning orbital sander thing that is my skill. And so I was really happy with that, but I could not find one of those. I think that may be more of a Lowe's specific. I hate that, you know, they have their brands that they carry, and so it's hard to find. I mean, unless you're getting like a DeWalt or a Milwaukee, any of these other kind of slightly lower tier brands, I think that they are more specific to different store brands. So like Rigid, you're only going to find at Home Depot, right? I mean, that's their store brand. I think Skill may only be available at Lowe's. Now, you could probably buy them online too. I'm not going to say you couldn't. I don't know if I have a Lowe's app. Do I have a Lowe's app? I do have a Lowe's app. Let me see if they've got the skill here. It's farther away for me to go to there. And skill sander. Let me just type sander. Let me see if they actually have it there. Let's see. Wow, there is a corded random orbital sander. It's kind of what I had. They've got a couple different versions too, but oh, that's the one I had right there. The random orbital sander. That's the one. Holy crap, dude. 36 bucks for the one I had. Anyway, I got still more expensive than the skill by far, but less than the rigid. So I brought this home, and I mean, it's not bad. It has like a nice rubber section in the front because I like to actually, and they know this, right? Because I like to hold my sander like this a lot of times when I'm sanding a piece of wood. I like to just have it like this. Some people like to be up on top like this. I find this to be a little bit more uncomfortable. I feel like I've just got more control when I hold it. So they give you a nice rubber section right here. It's even called the grip zone, which, you know, gives you a nice, I mean, especially if you've got large hands. If you got small hands, I'm not sure how this would feel, but I have very large hands. So this feels really great when I hold it like this. So that, I like that part of it. The other thing is the dust collector or the dust chute out of the back works really nicely with my dust hose here. I use a hose clamp just to get a nice tight fit on here, but it fits the little hose adapter piece that I have. So that was nice. A lot of them have really, like the Makita has a really small, like maybe 3/4 of an inch tube coming out the back, which I would have to find some way to adapt that, and I didn't want to mess with that. So that kind of left Makita out. I think Bosch is the same way. They've got a really small exhaust port for dust in the back, and I wanted something that was going to be at least similar to this. The rigid was, they have a big port, but then when you take their little dust catcher off, it actually had a smaller port on the inside that fit this. So it was okay. This one actually has this port, and so it fits nicely on there, which just means it's easier for me to use with the dust collector. It has this nice handle thing. It's still not as good as my skill. My skill was just, I don't know why. You know, you just get used to the way a tool works. But this one is better than that rigid piece of excrement that I had. So this one will have to do for the time being. So that was one of the things I did was that were kind of hanging out in limbo because I had sanded everything to 120. Then I was going to get the new sander because the other one died, and I had to stop. So these have now been sanded to 150. Then I did the roundovers on all the corners and edges, and then I sanded them to 220, and they feel pretty nice. So these are basically ready for staining, and I might stain one of them today in the shop. I haven't decided yet. It depends on how we are in time. By the way, it is a nasty day. We've had that tropical storm that was down in the Florida Panhandle has like just pushed its way up, and it is just gross outside. I mean, it's sunny right now, but it's about 100% humidity. It is nasty humid. It says my humidity in the shop is 55%. I think that's bunk. I think it's more like 60. And that's in the shop. If I open the door, it's even worse. But it's 80 degrees with 55% humidity in here. It feels pretty gross. And as it gets let's see. And there's just a big, massive storm front thing that just kind of dumping showers all night long and all the other good stuff. What's the dew point outside is 75, the humidity is 82%. I swear it's higher than that. Like I came down this morning and my windows, every single one of my windows was just fogged up because it was so humid outside, and I've got the air conditioning on, and they're dual pane windows, right? But it was It's gross out there. So nothing outside today. God, I would love to be outside. I would love to get my bike and go for rides. Yeesh, yeesh. Okay, so here's where we are today with things we've got to do. The other thing we did last Monday was I took a whole bunch of scrap. I kind of went over to my scrap pile over here, and I noticed at one point in time that I had a lot of long pieces of scrap that were, you know, inch or so tall or whatever in varying thicknesses. And it's when I would trim a board down, I would end up with pieces that kind of look like this, only slightly larger. And I had a bunch of those. And being a scrap hoarder that I am, I figured, oh, well, someday I'll do something with those. And well, Monday was that someday. I kind of gathered them all up. And the first thing I did was to kind of make sure that I had a good side. So I ran them through the planer or through the jointer, to those that needed it. So I had one flat side, then I got one flat edge. That allowed me to put them through the table saw. Then I cleaned up any remaining side here. Then what I did was I figured, okay, well, how tall do I need to make these? I cut them all to the same height. Then I cut them down on the compound miter saw behind me over here and cut them down to a similar about 14.5-inch lengths. Then I proceeded to glue those together into two different panels. And from those panels, I'm planning on making, I don't know what yet, probably a cutting board. I have no idea what shape or anything else, but we're gonna run those through the planer today and get them cleaned up. Then we're gonna saw them again. We're gonna saw them into sections and probably 1.5 inch thick widths. Then we'll flip those up. That puts the end grain facing up. And then we will glue those together and make a large panel out of that glue up. So I think that's what we're gonna do today. If that doesn't take very long, which I don't know that it should, if that doesn't take very long, I might go ahead and get my walnut base, like the one I just showed you, and put some Danish oil on there so we can see what that looks like. Danish oil is really simple to apply. It's a nice, easy finish to use. And then if we still have some extra time left over, I'll go ahead and pop open the stain and we'll stain some of these cherry ones. They get stained. The walnut just gets Danish oil. I think I've got some dark walnut Danish oil, which makes it a little bit darker. Walnut, it's really nice. But anyway, we've got two panels that we need to look at. So what I'm going to go, I think I've got a camera switch to there. I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these bases and move them out of the way for the moment because, well, they are in the way. They're in the way, so we might get to those a little later. I'm not going to clean them right now, so I'm going to put my naphtha away. And I don't need scissors, so I'm going to put those away. Okay, these are my glue up little things right here. I use these for gluing up cutting boards mostly. And they're great. They're just made out of PVC pipe. This is the 2 1/4, I think. Or 1.5 inch PVC. This is 1.5 2 1/4, 1.5 PVC. And then I've got a couple of elbows. These aren't even glued on. They're just sitting in here. And but you can just take a screwdriver or whatever, and then this glue just comes right off of this PVC. And they clean up perfectly. They give a great platform for putting stuff on so you can then apply clamps and stuff. So I love using these. I did not come up with this idea. I stole this idea, borrowed it, liberated it from MTM Wood. The guy's got an amazing site where he makes just some of the coolest cutting boards you've ever seen. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and grab the panel that we glued up because it's got a lot of clamps on it at the moment, and we need to get those clamps off. So I'm going to grab that and bring it over. Oh, and it's very heavy because these are all pipe clamps on here. All pipe clamps. Ugh. All right. So these are the two panels. Now this is two panels. It looks like one, but it is actually two panels. And I'm going to loosen these top ones here. Top clamps off. I put glue on here. Glue. Let me try that again. I put tape on here to keep the black pipe from interacting with the glue, because when you do that, when you lay these pipes down on a fresh glue, you get squeeze out and it creates these black, nasty black globule mess that you then have to clean off. So to remedy that, I just put some glue, or some glue. I keep saying glue. I put some tape on top of the pipes after I figured out how wide they need to be. I just put a couple of pieces of tape on there. That keeps the glue from interacting with this pipe, and then we're good to go. So I've got 5 of these. I'm going to keep these handy because we are going to glue up again. This is going to get glued again today. All right, I'm going to flip this over. Now, like I said, this is actually two panels here. This is not just one panel. Because I wanted, first of all, it needs to run through my jointer, or, wow, I can't even pick the right word today. It needs to run through the planer. The planer is going to clean some of this off because this is still long grain on here and not end grain. I can run it through there. If this was end grain, like it will be at some point in time, there's no way I can run it through my planer because end grain and planers do not play well together. And it would kick that end grain and fire that board out the back of my planer and maybe through my wall. I've tried it once. It's very violent when it happens. So yeah, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go that route, but I can hopefully, like I can run it through the planer now because this is not end grain. This is all long grain. So let me get these out of the way. And these two should separate just like that. Look at that. Lovely. So there's one panel. There's the other panel. Like that. Now, they are a little rough. They're pretty flat. They got glue all over them. And I tried to keep the glue off, but for the most part, but I failed. So I can go over to, I don't want the glue on there when I run it through the planer. So I'm going to hop back over here to my workbench over here. Let me get these out of the way for the moment. Whoa, and we're going to see about cleaning the glue off of these. There's a lot of different ways I could do this. I don't think I turned this camera on. Let's turn this camera on here. Bing. Okay, let's see if that camera is on now. Is it going to be on? There we go. So you can see that there's some glue on here. If I turn them over both sides. The thing is that these are pretty flat though. I tried really well to keep these pretty flat and even and did a pretty decent job. So there's two. Try to scrape all that glue off. 2, I could use sandpaper and get like some, I've got a nice 80 grit here. Like I could take this 80 grit, put it on my sander, sand all this stuff off. 3, I could take a hand plane like this and just try to knock off some of the high stuff in here. And I mean, that might work. Because like I said, I'm just trying to get the majority of the large bulky stuff off of here so that it's, even if there's glue spread on here, if it's flat, I'm okay. Because the planer will take off the majority of that flat glue that's on here. I just need the bulky stuff that won't let it run through flat. This plane is pretty dialed in here. I've got this sharpened pretty well. But this is what I like using a hand plane, or you know, like the little block plane and stuff is great for this. Because it has a shorter foot on here, it rides that wood a little bit better than a long plane does. Like if I use my jack plane on here, the sole of that is so long that you would miss a lot of this little glue stuff on here. But I'm just trying to get any of the large globs of glue off that would not let that sit this as flat as I really need it to. Okay, and it does need to sit flat because the planer references whatever the bottom of the wood is. So if I'm running this through, this is my piece of wood and I'm running it through, any bumps or irregularities on this side get mimicked on the top side that's being cut. And you really want to start with a flat piece of wood. If at all possible, you want that wood to be as flat as you can get it. Now this, not sure why that's not. So this is feeling pretty flat here. And now flip it over and get any on the other side. And then, like I said, as I make passes that go through the joiner, oh man, got a little open area there that did not get glued up, but it looks good on this side. As you make passes, I'm not trying to take a lot of wood off here. I'm just trying to get them flattened down. This feels much rougher on this side. Much rougher. I'm going to lower this down just a hair. See if I can get some of this stuff off of here. And I might hit this on the, I mean, this side's pretty good. I'm not really too worried about this side, although that, let's see, I've got a chisel right here. Chisel's the other thing, if you've got any larger areas that you want to just kind of remove the stuff off of, you can take a chisel and just kind of do it like that. There we go. So larger globs of glue here that I'm worried about, I can just take the chisel to them. And that's not too bad. And then what will happen is after I get one side done, I will flip this over and do the other side. And hopefully this will be pretty flat because these sides are going to get glued to each other. I'm going to cut this in strips like this, and those strips get turned up and they get glued together. And that's kind of where we're going to go from there. So tell you what, let's pull out the new sander because, you know, I've got it. And let's see about just, where's this? Is this plugged in? Yeah, it's plugged into it already. Let's see about maybe using a little 80 grit on here and doing a really fast rundown on this. That might just be more efficient at this point. It's pretty good, but I've got some big globs on here and I don't want to mess too much with like doing my chisel and stuff here. I mean, I could, but it's just kind of a pain. So let's just use an 80 grit, see how well this new sander wants to work here. This is a 220 on here. Take that off. Ugh, the hook and loop is really good. I will say that. It has got some really good hook and loop going on here. All right, I've got an 80 right here. So we'll put this on here. Whoop. Stop it. And I need to put my hearing protection on, and then we will just give this a run through. I actually did a pretty good job. There's still a lot of glue left inside here. I mean, I can get up close and you can see there's still a lot of glue left, like especially in the boards that sit slightly lower and such. Like I said, really what I'm looking for is something that is going to give me a flat across the board here. So some of these are higher, some are lower. All that glue will get cleaned out as I run it through the jointer. Like this one right here sets obviously much lower because you can see, hopefully you can see all that glue sitting on this board right here. But it's much lower than the ones on the side of it. So once this gets planed down, all that'll get cleaned off. Like I said, just looking for a flat surface to run this through the planer. So that one's not bad. Let's clean this other one up here a little bit. Let's see if we can do a little cleanup on this one. I'm going to start with this just gets big stuff off of here. And then once we get some of this stuff cleaned off, then we'll come back with the sanding stuff on here as well. And then we'll do the same thing. Not bad though. This is kind of, now, you know, the cleaner you have this glue when you're doing your glue ups, I mean, I could have taken my time and actually, after I put that first set of clamps on, I probably could have gotten a wet towel and run it through. And that would have cleaned it up just a little bit better. Left a little less residue on here, because that's really the key to this is, you know, if you want to go faster, clean it off. Clean it off early, and then you won't have as much to mess with when you take the clamps off. But you have to do this part of the step. You have to clean it off and make sure that it's flat so that when you run it through the jointer, or take the time to really get these exact super flat when you're putting them together. That helps a lot. I didn't put any clamping calls on here, and sometimes you can put clamping calls on and that will help. There's a little bit of glue. I just want to make sure this is clamping calls will help a lot because they help to keep all the boards flat across this way. You clamp a call across here and that smashes them down so that you don't have any boards separating and being higher or lower than the ones around it, which I didn't do. These were pretty flat, so it's not terrible. It's not the best, but it's not terrible. And then just doing this kind of helps to establish a little bit of a flatness to it. And all right, that's most of this side. Got a couple little things right here that are bugging me. Let's check this side. Kind of chunky over here. So hopefully this will come off pretty quick. So these have basically been sitting in the clamps for, well, 2 days. I put them in Monday afternoon, so Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning. So almost 2 full days these have been in clamps. So this glue is very well set up. It's not going anywhere. And got really good joint here. This one's a little higher, and that might cause problems. So we want to make sure that this is going to be as even as we can get it. That's where the plane comes in handy because it's taking down any high wood along with the glue pieces. It's getting any wood that might be a little too high. And that, because you can see, I mean, we're getting lots of shavings here. So it's just helping to make sure that when we run this through the planer, we're as flat as we can be without, you know, it won't be perfect, but close is good. Close will probably bring us home. There we go. clean off some high spots here. Getting some of that walnut. Let's flip it around. See if we can get some of this stuff off of this side. And then I'll hit this with the sander really quick. And then once we're done with that, we're going to go over to the planer and just start feeding these through and seeing how nice we can make these things. Once we get done with the planer, we'll go over to the table saw. And we'll make a few passes on the table saw to cut these into new lengths. And then we'll get those clamps out. We'll glue them back up again. All right, I think that's pretty good. I think. Let me just clean that off there. And then what we'll do is hit this with the sander and flip it, do the other side, and then we'll move on to the planer. Boy, you know it's going to be a good day when a tornado watch pops up on your phone. That's awesome. Okay, well, it is what it is. Tornado watch. Just a watch. It's not a warning, just a watch. Okay, we are pretty good here. We're going to go ahead and move over to the planer. I just have to hook up a couple of things here. I believe I have a camera set up for this as well. So let me switch over to that. See how well I lined that. I did a pretty good job lining that up. Plug in the power for the planer. Okay. And you can see it's just on my flip top card here, so not too difficult. I've got one right here. I've got one right here. And just turn this a little bit so it's easier for you to see here, maybe. So I'm going to set the depth here. Like I said, I'm just going to take really, really super light cuts on this. I don't want to be too extreme. I'm going to get my ears here. But I'm going to take as light a cut as possible because I just want to slowly work down to that good wood and try to keep this nice and even. So let's see if we can get the power on. I've got the dust collection hooked up. Let's go ahead and run a couple of strips through here. Okay, so that's pretty good. So both sides done. You can see all that stuff is gone now. I'm trying to see if there's any stuff here. I mean, I got some chip up a little bit because, you know, this was figured maple. So it was a little rough right there. I can sand that down really smooth for glue up and stuff. But that was pretty decent right there. I like that. It doesn't matter thickness wise. I try to remove as little wood off of each side as I can. But basically this is going to get cut into 1.5-inch strips. So the reality is, we're going to mix them all up and it'll look really cool when it's done. The uniformity is going to come when we make these next cuts on the table saw. Tell you what, give me just a second. I have to run inside for just a second. I'll be right back. Give me just a moment. Okay, I'm back, and we got the other one here. We're gonna go ahead and, like I said, just make some really light trimmings, and I have to raise this back up again because it's set for that last one. So we need to get this set, and then we'll make some cuts. So let's go ahead and get this rolling. So what I'm looking for when I send this through is that, you know, obviously I can tell that it's pretty clean all across the top. But what I'm looking for is little bits of like maybe glue that are right along the edge of a board, which lets me know that that board is just a little lower than the board next to it. So I want to make sure that I have nothing, I don't see any glue along any of these board seams right here. And you can see that's, I mean, that is pretty tight. And there's no glue up in there, and that looks really nice. That looks pretty nice. I do have a little snipe here. I'm going to try to work with that and get that cut in a place where it's not going to affect us. Snipe is just something you really can't avoid with a planer. I don't care which planer you're using. It could be a planer that costs $10,000. You're going to get snipe. It's the way that it grabs the boards and then feeds them through. I have seen if you have a drum sander, that usually does not leave snipe, but I don't have a drum sander. All right, what we need to do now is I need to change things up a little bit. I'm gonna set up and take the dust collection. We're gonna put that over here at the table saw. Move my bench out of the way because we're going to cut these into some strips now, and that should look pretty cool. I need to find the power. It was over here on the sander. Actually, you know what I might do first? Yeah, I think before I do that, I'm just gonna sand these really quickly on each side with maybe some 150, just to make sure they're nice and smooth. I think I will do that first. And it's not gonna take real long, but because what we're gonna do is when we get these cut, we're gonna just glue these together. And I wanna make sure that I've got nice smooth edges for that glue. So I'm just gonna take this 80 off of here. I'm gonna find a 150. Let me see if I can find, that's a 220. Let me find a 150. It's pretty decent. Both of these are pretty, that's a good one. So we will take this 150, and my holes are a little different than my last machine, so I need to get those lined up. All right, let me get my ears again. And I'm just gonna run these, like I said, I'm not gonna do a big thing. I'm just gonna run it through really quickly and smooth these out just a little bit. Find my, my remote. And then we'll run over to the table saw. Yeah, I don't want to spend like a crazy amount of time doing that, but what I will say is the more time you take in the prep portion, which I will call this prep because you're preparing the wood for its final glue up, and the more time you take in this part, the better your glue up is going to be in the end, and the less gaps and things like that. So it always just takes just a little extra time, but the payoff is pretty big. So, all right. Hook up power over here. I'm going to go over to my table saw. And so here's the thing I need to figure out. I need to set up a stop. I need to do a couple of different things over here. Let me put you on this camera. Boop, there we go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this one edge off, or an edge off. I'll cut this edge off here because it's not going to lose a lot of wood. So I'm going to raise the saw blade up above the surface there. Now what I need to establish is, after I get this first one cut, I need to establish where I want to, I may need to move this because this is maybe a little too thick here. How wide is this? You see how wide this is here? Zero that. Yeah, so that's 2.5 inches right there. That's thicker than I want to go. And what I need to do is I need a stop block on here to tell me where to set my wood up to get it. Actually, you know what? I could do it right on here. So we could do it on here. I could set up a cut block on here. After I get this first one done, that's what we'll do. I'll set up a little stop right on here and make it 1.5 inches from the edge of that cut. And then that's how wide we will cut them. And I'll just put a little block on here. I'll just clamp it on. And that way I'll push against the block. We'll cut another one. And I think I got, let me take a little prep work here. Find a pencil. I'm just going to do a little prep work here. So if I cut this as my first spot, okay, and then I go 1.5 inches, and I'm just going to mark for the kerf. You don't want to ever forget your kerf because, you know, when you're using the saw, it's taking wood away. And if you're not including that in your measurements, you're going to come up short every time. So always pays to take that kerf into account. So 1.5 inches. So I'm just measuring out to see how many boards I can expect to get out of here and where my cuts are going to be. Basically, 1.5 inches. Did I do 1.5 inches here? Okay. And like I said, it's just, it pays to do a little bit of planning up front. You're going to be happier for it. But you always got to account for that kerf, always. 1.5 inches. Yeah, I'm going to have a little left over on this one, but that's fine. That gives me a lot of extra. So I'll have, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't think I can get an extra 1.5 inches. We'll see, but I don't think I can. But anyway, let's go ahead and I'm going to trim off this edge first and get this. I'm just going to do as minimal a trim as I can. Try not to lose any wood off of here that I don't have to. I tried to keep one edge pretty straight when I glued this up and did a pretty good job. So let's see, I got power, I've got my dust collection, and yeah, let's Enough. Enough. No more. Okay. Okay, so we have one edge right here that is perfectly straight, right? And I can take my, make sure I didn't get any missing boards in there, but that is perfectly straight along this edge. Now I need to measure 1.5 inches. The easiest way is to take this over to the saw, and then I'm going to measure 1.5 inches on here, and then get my mark. It's going to be right here. Do it from this side. So there's my 1.5 inches. So what I need to do is get a block of wood. That's going to be my stop. And I think this one will do just fine. So I've got a block of wood here. I'm going to put that on and clamp it to the backer board. So let me go get a clamp. We'll clamp it to the backer board, and then that is going to help me to get a repeatable cut every single time. Now, the one thing I want to make sure is when I cut these strips out, I want to pull it away, pull the strip out before. I don't want to pull it back through. So that's just the big thing to kind of keep everything squared up. Let me move this back just a little bit here. Clamp this down. Get a little tightness on here. Okay. And I'm going to pull it back so I can get a really nice tight clamp on here, because I do not want this to move. I want this to stay put. But what that does now is it allows me to take this, slide it into that board, run it through, get that piece off, bring it back, and just push it in and start again. And this is not going to move. This is clamped down really tight. All right, let's make some strips. That'll be fun. All right, let me get everything fired up. Do one thing here. You idiot. just a little too long. Okay, this one didn't quite make the cut. It's just a little too here. And I've kept them in the same orientation that they were. So this is just how they were cut out. Why do I have a little piece of glue on here? Oh, it's just sitting on there. So they're all in the same orientation. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut the next batch the same way. Notice how when it got close, I pulled out the gripper here because it's a little close to that blade for my fingers, and I'm not into that. So I'm going to set these boards or these bases somewhere else. I need a little room for the moment here. So hang on. Get these things out of the way. All right, and let me get that other board. Now the thing is, when you flip these up, when I start flipping these up, I mean they're going to lose a lot of their width. I mean they get skinnier when you go like this, right? So I need to accommodate for the skinniness of it. But anyway, let's go ahead and trim off one edge of this one and get it nice and straight. Don't know how far that's going to have to be. Probably right there. Okay, I'm going to start. I can always come back and trim a little bit more, right? Okay. And once again, I'm left with a little bit of a scrap. It's just a hair too short for what we were going to do, but that's okay. Worked out really well. And my stop block worked. We don't need that anymore. Okay, and I'm going to take the table saw down. Probably should clean all this dust off of here. What is going on my phone here? Spam risk phone call. Thank you, but no thank you. And then let me clean off the table over here. A lot of dust. It's just a table saw. If I had an overarm dust collector, it would probably eliminate 90% of that, but I don't. So it is what it is. Dusty. Okay. 12:18. We're doing good on time. Check my phone real quick. Let me just open up the computer real quick just to make sure that there's nobody like jumping up and down and trying to wave at me or anything else. Nope, there's not. You laugh, but it happens. All right, so now we can take these pieces that we just cut and move them back over to the table here. Let me just grab them in stacks here, and I'll show you what we're going to do with these. Okay, and these are in the order that they were cut. And I'm just going to put this one right there because that was the separator between the two. Okay, so what we've got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So mixed. So what I can do is I can start mixing these up a little bit. Okay, I want to keep a pattern, but it's going to be kind of a random pattern. So I'm going to take one of these and this one. I'm just going to start interlacing these so you can see how this works. Where we start to get a pattern established just from the fact that we're intermixing these. There's already a pattern. Oops. There we go. Pattern, 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 pattern. So now we've got a little bit of a pattern already. Let me just... Now here's the other thing too. Some of these are longer than the others. So this... It'll all be good. But I need to get one side here where it's going to be, everybody's going to be pushed against the same common ruler here. Okay. So now you can see, hopefully, that we've kind of got a little pattern laid out here. This is not, we're not making a long grain cutting board, no. So now it's time to flip these on end because it's going to be an end grain cutting board. So we're just going to keep flipping these. Like this. Actually, I can run it into the wall here. Probably does better for me because I've got a fence there. I can. Flip some of these. So I've got this nice white one over here, and I don't have a lot of that over on this side. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and just flip these like this so that I get some nice color variation in here. It's falling down into my little area there. But I'm going to flip the ones that have this lighter band at the top here down to the side. That gives a little lighter band down at the bottom here. I'm just trying to distribute the color patterns a little bit. There we go. And then once again, I can take this and bash it into the wall here and get these all settled down. Here, let me tip it up so you can see. So that's what we're looking at. You know, and this is all out of those little random sticks that I had laying around. Yeah, it's pretty nice. They are all, it's pretty uniform in height. It should be, because I just, you know, that's why we put that block there, so that these should all be the exact same. I mean, they're going to be, there's some really tiny little minimal differences, but they're pretty darn close. This is not quite squared up here. And that's the other thing, is when I glue this, I want to make sure that this is going to be glued very tight. The other thing is that I've got some glue or some marks from the saw. So I'm going to take these and sand these, hand sand them, just ever slightly to remove any burrs, so that those burrs do not interfere with our glue up process. To be really well glued up. I mean, this may all fall apart in the end, you never know, but we're going to try our best to make it look really cool and make it look nice. So let me grab my little sanding block here, and I'm just going to start at this end and just clean the edges of burrs. I think the burrs are the thing that are going to be the problem here. So I'm just going to go this way. And I'm trying to remember which way these go. But you want to remove those burrs off of those edges if you can, just to get really nice, clean edges here. So I'm going to go like this. And I think this is really fine sandpaper too. It's just, like I said, I'm not sanding these as much as I'm just removing the burrs. That's my whole point here, is just remove the burrs. I'm going to stick them on this side for right now. And burrs on the end there. So sticking them this way, let me go this way with it. Because some of this wood, especially like the oak, it likes to get those little burrs on there when you cut it. It just is the way it is. But like I said, a little bit of prep work goes a long way. And I like the way this looks. When this is all done, I mean, it's going to have mineral oil poured all over it. And it'll look really nice. There's some burrs up on this one right here. Sometimes you get a little bit of chipping, as long as it's minimal. Good. But yeah, this is kind of cool. Now, the other thing is that, you know, it may not just be a rectangular cutting board when we're done. I may decide to cut a pattern out of it or something. I haven't decided that part yet. And that's something that we could totally do, is, you know, cut a pattern out of this finished piece of wood that we're going to have here. It's pretty sizable in terms of cutting boards. It's got some good size to it. It has nice thickness to it. Like I said, I like them to be a little thick. Usually when I'm done, especially if they're triangular, I like a chamfer at the bottom of them. I just think the chamfer looks really nice, and I always put feet on them as well. Some little rubber feet with some stainless steel screws. I think that always is a nice touch. Now it does mean that your cutting board only gets used on one side usually. If you put feet on it, people aren't usually going to flip it over to use it with the feet up, right? So it's a choice. This one, switch these two. Like that better. Okay. Good. Yeah, this is a fun little project. It's nice to make use out of all this scrap wood. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it when I'm done. Give it to somebody as a gift, I guess. Because, you know, that's what you do with cutting boards, right? You gift them. At least that's what I do. I have more than my fair share of cutting boards in my house. I don't ever need them. I made one that was like 2.5 inches thick. It's a massive one. It's pretty awesome. And then I have a one that's made of long grain, but it's made of like some really nice figured maple and other stuff. It looks really cool, and it's in the shape of a guitar body, so that was pretty fun. But that's what I'm talking about. You can cut shapes out of your cutting board. You don't have to. I mean, you can do that with a jigsaw. You don't have to have a CNC machine to do that. So now we have that. That looks good. Now we need pipe clamps. And well, actually, you know what? I'm going to get my, get this here. And I'm going to clean these off because they do have glue all over them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just go over here and grab a chisel. I'm not going to use the chisel-y edge. I won't use the point, but the chisel has a pretty nice, it's fairly sharp on the edges here. And I'm just going to take this and lightly scrape it back and forth across the top, and that glue that was on here, it just flies off. That's why I like using these, because they're so easy to clean up. And it gives you a nice flat surface again to work with. So that is nice and clean. We'll just go and hit the other one here. And that glue just flakes right off of there, which is really nice. Sometimes there's a couple of thicker globs. It takes a little bit more rubbing, but I'm trying not to shave down the pipe. I'm just trying to run this over the flat part of the pipe to get the glue off. I don't want to put any divots or anything in the pipe itself, because I want it to stay nice and flat, because that's my reference for glue. Now, the other thing you can do is, if you want to, is like you can just kind of rub the sandpaper over it if you want to, as long as it's a light grit. But anyway, that's our glue up stanchions, if you will. I like to do them this way. And then we're gonna shift this around, put these up here. Woo! Try not to tip them, keep them in order. And if you remember what we did, if you were here for the last time when we did the glue up, is we start with one, and we're just going to run it to the edge here. Then what we do is we start flipping these back. So we're going to go this way. Get these closer together. And then you just start, we're going to flip them so that when I put the glue on here, I'm always going to rotate towards the piece I'm gluing to. And that just helps me to remember that. To this point, your pieces are very flat here, so you can just drizzle the glue all over. There are some people that use like a small paint roller, and I've seen where what they will do is just put the glue on there, then they get the paint roller and they smear that glue all over the place. It's much faster. I'm not that efficient, so I will just continue to use my little silicone brush. I'm cleaning the old glue off of here. Unless this one is better. This one, let's see. Probably have to peel the big giant thing of glue off of here. But yeah, so there's lots of, or they'll use like an ink roller, which is basically a rubber roller, and they'll put the glue on there and they'll roll the glue out with that. There's glue bottles that you can buy that have rollers on them. Kind of make it faster. I don't do it that often, so for me, I just kind of use what I've got here. But if I was going to do this a lot, I would probably invest in like some sort of a glue roller or whatever, or maybe use a small paintbrush roller or something along those lines to really help spread this glue quickly and evenly. But I don't do these that often, so. Alrighty. Got this, that. I've got clamps at the ready. And glue. We need glue, right? So let me get my glue. Once again, I'm using Titebond 2. A lot of people swear by, oh, you need to use Titebond. But if you do really good glue joints, I've never seen them come apart that you needed that. So anyway, you can see I just drizzle a whole bunch on here, and then I'm just going to start, go push it this way, and then I can start smearing this all over the place and try to get a nice thick glue coat on here. Trying to leave the glue on the top surface here and not push it off to the sides. I might have to apply some more glue on here. But we'll see. I'm just gonna get this. I mean, the nice thing is that these, like I said, they're all flat. Unlike before when they were uneven heights when we did the first glue up. These are all flat, so it's really easy to just kind of paint over the whole thing with the brush and really get that glue spreading around. There are some very slight thickness variances in these boards because they were two different panels. So width-wise, this way they're the same, but thickness, they're just right, thick, thin. But when you're on this part of it, it can be a little bit of an issue. I'm going to move this forward just a little bit so I can get to this last one here. And then I'll address any areas on here that need a little bit more glue. Just going to see how evenly we can spread all of the glue that we've got on here. All right, almost there. I said this when I did the first panel glue up, and it is worth saying again. I'm not a fan of a lot of glue on my joinery, but when I do a cutting board, I'm a fan of really making sure there is a lot of glue on here. You do not want a glue-starved joint on a cutting board. Glue-starved means there wasn't enough glue to cover the entire piece of wood. And that is not our goal here. Our goal is to have the entire thing covered and cause problems for the person using it, right? So make sure you are not dealing with a glue-starved joint. And that means sometimes, you know, when you get done looking at it, some of that glue is going to soak into the grain. I mean, it's inevitable because wood is porous. So some of it, even though the glue is thick, some of it does soak in. So just go back and look before you go and you know, put the clamps to it. Just make sure that you've got really good coverage all the way across those boards so that you're not leaving any open areas where bacteria can gather bad things will happen. All right, this looks good. But that also comes down to the person using it too. I do know that people do not take care of their cutting boards the way they should. Needs more glue. About once a month to keep the oil filling the pores and keeps the wood fresh, and it keeps it from splitting and then leaving more areas for bacteria to gather. So that is maintenance of your cutting boards is something that I think is overlooked by most people. They'll just use them till they're just little planks of kindling, is what it is. All right, I've got this first set done here. I'm going to go ahead and start flipping these and then aligning them, trying to keep an edge that is straight on here. You get a little glued together on the edges, that's okay. The other, like two straight edges to keep them from shifting side to side. And we might do that depending. I will look and see what we're looking like here. I'm trying to keep this one edge as straight as we can get it. If it's close enough, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, I'm going to flip these and then we can get glue on these and then we will be all done with the glue and then we can start applying clamps. But that looks pretty good. I like that. Okay, do the same thing here. Just put a healthy amount of glue on here. You do go through some glue. By the gallon, not by the little bottle, because you will go through a lot of glue. All right, I'm going to just try to get this spread as quickly as possible here. This glue has pretty good setup time. Like it's not going to be locked in place after, you know, a couple of minutes. But the sooner I get everything put together and then the clamps, the better I feel about it. All right, just doing my little best artwork here. Really, the thing I like to look at is the edges. Like I will miss glue on these edges. I get it all slathered in the middle of the board and then I forget to do all the way out to the edges. And that's important too. Even though these are going to get trimmed off, you know, these silicone brushes are really nice too because they really spread things really well. Glue does not stick to them, and when you're done, you just let them dry, and then you can kind of peel the glue out in big chunks. So that's pretty cool the way they work. This one, really? Do I need more glue there? Right in that little corner? I think I do. This one's just not cutting it. Oh. Okay, that should be enough. That should be more than enough. I'm going to lose a lot of this glue to squeeze out, and that's okay. As I said, also better to squeeze out that glue than to just not have enough in place when you're doing this. Okay, that looks good. Everything is really it's a pretty good size cutting board though, right? It's a much better use for scrap than a bonfire. Unless, you know, you've got a bag of marshmallows and some Hershey bars that you need to deal with, but that looks pretty good. I need a paper towel. All right. I'm gonna get my clamps here. And the same thing as I did last time, I'm going to put some tape on my clamps, and that will keep the glue from sticking to the clamp, and it keeps the glue from interacting with the pipe and making these ugly black marks on my board. And it looks like that. So there's just a little bit of tape on there. I'm going to take this one. And actually, I need to move this. Oh, crud. You know what I didn't do is I didn't adjust this for the new size. So hang on a second. Pull that off. Let's readjust this pipe clamp here so that it's much more in line with where we're going to be clamping. A little bit more. Right about there. That's good. Okay, let me try this again. No worries. This is just masking tape. This is frog tape, but it's all good. Any masking tape is fine. There we go. All right, now I can close the clamp down on here. That was probably a little far, but let me get this straight. But I'm seeing lots of nice squeeze out come through here, which is good. And then I'm going to do some more. I'm going to do the edges because honestly, they need to be done. You don't want to leave the edges. That's good right there. You don't want to leave the edges unclamped. You really want to clamp as close to the edge as possible to make sure that you're getting a good seal of that wood, that glue, all the way across. Let's see, how far do I need to go with that one? Just like right there, maybe. So once again, just putting some tape on there. I'm going to come in with this one right here. I'm going to move this out a little bit now, so it's off. Turn it this way a little bit. Actually, hang on. I'm going to move this pipe in so I can get some clamping pressure. There we go. On the inside here, that's what I want right there. Okay, put this on here and just start turning this one. I'm going to try to get these ends. They're not perfect, and that's why we use these big giant clamps on them. But as I start applying this pressure, I should see all these openings closing up. There we go. And when that glue sets up, whoo, mercy. When that glue sets up, yeah, see, it opened up a couple little places there, and that's what I was afraid of. Open on a joint. That one just did. We might have to lose that edge. That's okay. It's all good. I might do the same thing over here because I'm looking and I might have that same problem over on this edge, but we'll deal with it. It's scrap wood, you know what I mean? It's not going to be perfect. Not going to be perfect, but it's close enough. Let me put my tape on this last one here. And then we can put this third clamp on here, and then we will flip this over and clamp from the other side too. No such thing as too many clamps. All right, this goes on here, and I try to keep this right to the edge. Sander's in the way. So right to the edge, so I'm going to close up these little gaps in here. I can get this closed here like this. I'm off, I'm not exactly straight, hang on. There we go, just like that. There we go, seeing some. Perfect. Now, if we do have some ends here that didn't quite get closed up, even though I don't know how because I'm just clamped like a beast here. If we do have some ends there that didn't quite get closed up, we might just trim those sections off. I don't care if I have to cut my cutting board out of the middle of this. Who cares, right? There's no set size to this thing. It is basically going to end up do is get a wet paper towel now and wipe some of the glue off of this side because because we don't need all that glue on there now from that squeeze out. And the more we take off at this point now, the more we take off, the better off we'll be. So I'm just going inside and getting my paper towel really wet. Probably going to get a couple paper towels here, actually. And then when I flip this over, there's just as much squeeze out on the other side. So we will need to wipe all that off as well. But this is really wet here. And I'm going to try to get this stuff cleaned off as best as possible, like right now, which gives us okay. So less squeeze out now. You can see that, less squeeze out. A lot of squeeze out on the bottom here, and we're going to take care of that. We have to put these 2 more clamps on here, and I'm going to put these like this and move this out here. I'm going to wipe this whole thing down again before I put these last clamps on here. I'm just going to wipe all of this off with this wet paper towel. And this will give us a smoother surface when we're done. I probably will flatten this on the CNC machine just because it takes less time. I'm probably pulling that glue into the end grain, which is okay because it's sealing the boards. So I'm okay with that too. There we go. All right, so all of this now, I will, got it all over my fingers. It's awesome. And get 2 more clamps. Size these up for what we need. Put the tape on them. And we can set this aside because it will be ready to go. I'm going to go from this end. Away. Put some pressure on here. Try to keep this flat and straight as I do this. Now there is some more squeeze out coming, which is good. Because that lets me know that, you know what, I didn't have, even though I clamped it from the one side, you get this alternate clamping force from this side, and it's just going to give you a better, you're just ensuring that you're getting more complete clamping force on both sides, I guess is what it is. I don't know, something like that, you know? All right, let me put the tape on here. Ugh, put the glue on there, that's nice. I'm going to set this over here. I just need somewhere flat where I can put some tape on here. Running out of space. Right in the middle. And then same thing, I'm just going to put pressure on here as I tighten this down. There we go. And I did get a little bit more squeeze out right here in the middle. So, you know, even though I squeezed the bejesus out of it on the other side, still managed to get a little bit more squeeze out of here. But that's all right. This looks good. I like this. I'm excited about this. You know, for just a scrap wood project, kind of happy with it. So here's what we got, right? So you can see that. So here's this side of it. Looks pretty nice. It's a big board. It's not super thick, but it's thick enough. What do we got on there? Like, I just threw that paper towel away. I probably should have kept that one out. Yeah. On to dry, which I'm going to do in a second. I'm just going to set this off to the side, and then we can come back to this on Friday. Oh, a couple more pieces down here, a little bit more squeeze out down here. Make sure we get that. I'm just trying to keep the big globs of squeeze out of here, keep them to a minimum. All right, now the last thing I need to do after I set this over here to dry is I need to clean my table, because I have glue all over my table. I don't care about the glue on these things, but I do care about the glue on my cast iron table, because that will discolor the cast iron, it will rust, it'll do all kinds of make the soap a little bit easier to clean up. It's so weird, my dogs are not in the house. It's so weird not having my dogs in the house. My son took them to work with him. It's like I'm so used to having my dogs. Every time I open the door, they run. You're home. It's like, I never left. They don't know that. All they know is I'm not there with them. All right. But it is nice that he can take them to work, and then he works at a dog day. Excuse me, a dog daycare. So they get to play with other dogs, which is great because they get to be socialized, because there's nothing worse than dogs that are not socialized. Okay, I'm going to get this water wiped up really quickly, but I mean, it's not going to rust right away, but you don't want to leave water on your table. That's bad. But you don't want to leave glue on your table either. So I think that is all cleaned up. I mean, we've already got some spots on here that I need to get some there's one right there to clean this off again. And it probably, with all this humidity, it's to the point where I need to recoat this with some wax too, to keep these things from rusting. Because every little scratch or nick, when you've got this much humidity, it is just horrible, horrible for cast iron. In fact, right here, I've got some rust that I'm gonna, and you can do this with steel wool. I start with sandpaper, and then I can work up to finer grits and stuff like that, but you want to make sure if you've got any rust spots that you're going to get those rust spots cleaned off. And then give it a good coat of wax, Johnson's paste. Stuff to use on your machines and such, but I find that honestly, a little sandpaper and some paste wax, and that is pretty much the answer to most problems with cast iron tops. They'll be cleaned off and they'll be protected from moisture. I had some heavy rust spots down here that, you know what, I'm here, I might as well deal with them. So you take care of these things, they'll last for 100 years or more, you know. Trust me, I work on cast iron sewing machine stuff all the time, so this stuff is made to last. But that looks good. So that's all cleaned off. That looks nice. This is probably a little heavier sandpaper than I should be using, but a couple of these marks were pretty bad. And I'd rather get them cleaned off. Didn't know you were going to be watching me clean a cast iron top today, did you? I'm not doing the whole thing. It needs it, but I'm not going to do that today. There's a couple of really larger pitted rust areas, and you know what they say, rust never sleeps. So you got to get it and get it early. That looks pretty good. That's pretty shiny. Pretty shiny right there. A couple of those areas. Up here I've got some, I don't know what I got. Surfacey, but still. What's that stuff people use? Bow Shield or something like that? I don't know. Let me know if you've used it. I've never used it, but like I said, I find that if I just clean my table surface like this of any rust areas, and then I just wax this sucker, not only does the wax protect it, but it just makes all your stuff flow across your table saw so smoothly that it's like a brand new surface when you wax them. I don't want to wax over rust, because then what you're doing is you're kind of sealing that rust in, and that's really not what you're after. You're not after sealing it in, you're after removing it. So is where it got rubbed, scratched, and moisture on there or whatever, and as the humidity picks up, it just locks into any of that stuff. Ouch, burning my thumb. So it really locks into any scratches and areas on your table. All right, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Right down here, a couple of areas. Especially this is the area that I work in most, is this end of the table, right? So, but it's nice to be able to have smooth areas where you can see all the nasty stuff on the towel here. Then all I do, just to kind of finish this off, I'm going to grab, this is Minwax. You can use Johnson's, Minwax, whatever. It's just furniture polish. I'm going to put some on the towel here, and I'm just going to rub it on. And then you let it sit for a few minutes. You come back with another towel and you buff it off. But this provides some fantastic waterproofing, you know, protection. Look at that. Yeesh. Let me get another towel. Provides great protection against moisture, especially if you've got a garage shop and you live in the south or the coastal areas. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about, because for me, it's one of the biggest things I battle is the humidity, because I'm in a shop that does not have climate control, and there is a lot, but trust me, it is. I can feel it in my knickers. I'm not going to explain that. You figure it out. But I can. And so the biggest thing with the high humidity shop is protecting your cast irons, your metal in general, but mostly your cast iron surfaces are really susceptible to high levels of humidity and moisture and all that good stuff. So an ounce of prevention. I didn't really sand this, but I'm going to go ahead and put the wax on here. We'll do our little Karate Kid wax on, wax. Seriously, I have a friend of mine who's, what is he, 62? And he told me the other day he's never seen Field of Dreams. I'm like, how is that even possible to not have seen Field of Dreams? I'm like, do you not like Kevin Costner? He's like, I like Kevin Costner just fine. I like a lot of his movies. I'm like, well, then how have you not seen Field of Dreams? It is like, aside from that and Bull Durham, like the two quintessential, you know, baseball movies. But even more importantly, Field of Dreams, not even necessarily a baseball movie. Because honestly, it just deals with life stuff in general, right? So, okay. Hey, I'm back over here. I think what I'm going to do, we got a few minutes left. You know, I usually wrap these. And therefore, I think I have a few minutes, and I'm going to take those few minutes to, well, I'm going to just straighten this nonsense up over here because it's kind of a lot of crud in the way. But I think I'm going to go grab that walnut base and just throw a coat of Danish oil on there. I'm just in the mood for doing some Danish oil on there. So let me walk over and grab that base, and I'm going to grab my, because I've got it sitting on the floor over here, which is another thing. I don't like sitting things on the floor any longer than I have to, but sometimes, you know, the floor is the only storage space I have. Is my board over there? Where's my board? I have a board that I use for all of my stuff. Can't find it. Did I set it on the side? Where's my little cardboard? Wah. Can't find my piece of cardboard. That's disappointing. Disappointed. What am I going to use? I could use this. Ooh, that's gross. That's kind of nasty. Yeah, this one's fine. All right. Thank you, U.S. Postal Service, for providing me free boxes to use. Run, spider, run. So we will get the Danish oil out and hit this with a little Danish oil. What do you think? Right here. I don't have a Danish oil cam. Let me see if we can switch cam number 2 over for a Danish oil cam here. Let's see. That's not bad. You can do that. Number 2, does that work for everybody? Right there. Looks good. I'm going to grab another paper towel, or maybe 2. I need to get more paper towels because I like the blue ones. The blue ones are the best, without a doubt. And then I need to get a little stand. This one's good. Okay. So I've got a little board here. It actually has some nails, some brad nails in there. And that is a perfect thing for this. So I can keep this up so I can get oil on both sides, but keep it up and let air get through it. And then got some painting pyramids. Let me get this out of the way. Okay. And we can get the oil out here. Let's find my Danish oil that I want to use. Let's wipe on poly. That's not what we want. That is dark walnut. I think that's the ticket. Let's see if I've got a more empty can. That's medium walnut. That's I got 2 dark walnuts. It is an oil that also contains varnish, and it's super simple to use. You just basically wipe it in, let it soak in, and then like 15 minutes later you wipe off the excess. Actually, you wipe it in, let it soak, wipe off the excess. 15 minutes you can come back and do another coat. Pretty much all you need is 2 coats. The color, this one has color. It's not a natural. It actually has a little bit of pigment in there. And that little bit of pigment, it only works once. So once you've got a coat of Danish oil on here, if you're trying to make it darker, it might get a tiny bit darker, but pretty much that first coat is going to give you all the darkness you're going to get. I don't use this on regular wood. I use this on walnut. Tear it in half just to use as an applicator. I'm just going to pour some into the bottom here because why not? And then rub it around. You can see how dark this stuff is, right? It looks like stain, but it's not. It's oil. Well, I'm going to push this all on the bottom and just get it soaking into that plywood down there. It does a nice job of staining the plywood, though, I will say. It always looks pretty good. I'll pour a little bit more in here. Whatever's left over will just be rubbed onto the sides and such. But I'm trying to get it down into the pores, into the corners. You can see though, it stains that. I mean, that's what we started with, that color right there, and it's darker. So it's a nice complement to this walnut, but then when I start rubbing it into the walnut just goes, oh, thank you. Usually it loves oil finishes. And I'm just going to rub this in. I've got plenty on my towel here now. So I'm just rubbing it into the interior spaces, getting them covered. And then I will move on to the exteriors. Now I've got a couple of, I'll call them problem spots, but they're a little harder to get to because I'm just going to splash it around there. Because there are these little notches where I've got, these cuts for the hinges. And I'm trying to get, there we go, get enough product in there to really get into that entire cutout. And that's good. Now I'm doing the inner ledge here, so I've actually got some that all the way around this ledge. This is where the machine sits. But like I said, this is the nice part about this stuff is it's really super simple. There's no messy wipe on. I mean, I'm using gloves. because, you know, it does have varnish in it and stuff, but this stuff is usually super simple to work with. I'm just going to soak up, I'm going to get in here and soak up that excess out of those little notches now that doesn't need it. Okay, and now I'm going to start working around the outside edge here, and I've got plenty of the product in my my paper towel at the moment, so I'm not too worried about that. I didn't set up my pyramids. Let me set my pyramids up, and I'm going to do the bottom, and then I'll move on to the right? Pretty dark, but I'm just going to swirl it around. Like I say, coloring the bottom is not like my highest priority, but figure, you know, it's all right. Gives a little bit of character to that plywood. You can actually see the grain on the plywood a little better, right? With that little bit darker on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit this bottom areas here and get those really oiled best I can. I'm going to just splash this a little bit and try to get into these handles, because these handles, much like those cutouts, you want to make sure you're getting the entire handle covered. And I can just make sure I get a nice coat on all of the sides now. So let me just turn this, get a fresh side here. I'm going to pour a little more oil on here. Nice and thick. And then we're just going to bring out the beauty. Oh, this stuff looks so good. I get emotional. You want to make sure any place that has like end grain, like down on these corners down here, make sure that you hit those really well, because it's end grain and it likes to soak up the product. You don't have to go crazy, but try to get them pretty good coverage on those end grain pieces. And let me get this last big stretch here. This is really pretty. So I'm going to hit these end grain spots again really well. Like I said, the nice thing about this oil-based finish, this Danish oil, is it has some protection. It's actually getting sucked into the wood grain and will firm and stay, it'll firm up and stay inside. That varnish will kind of crystallize inside those wood fibers and give it a lot of internal protection. But look at that. That is some beauteous walnut right there. Look at that. Now how well you can see that. I'm trying to show off as best I can. This is a knot that we repaired right here with some, you can see that. I repaired that with some black CA glue, and that looks awesome now. That's on the back side of where the machine would be. So it wouldn't be and it would have looked just as good. Not everybody loves a knot though. But this looks great. I mean, this is beautiful stuff. That's why I love working with this stuff. Now I will go and do the lid here. I'm gonna just take whatever is left on my towel here, because honestly, I think there's enough product in here that if I squeeze it, it'll all come out anyway. And I'm just gonna work this lid. So there's before, that's after. So you can see how nice that looks. It's just super lush. Lush? Is that appropriate? I don't know. Anyway, now I have to make sure that I get all the edges. And like I said, there's some these interior portions right here. And then I'm going to give it a couple little more wipes. The other nice thing is that you don't have to worry about, you know, like, oh, brush strokes and stuff to make it blend in. It's oil. It doesn't care. We're going to go back and wipe it all off anyway. We're going to wipe off any excess that's sitting here after about, you know, a few minutes. So we're basically just letting this sit on the surface of the wood right now and letting it just kind of bake in and soak in as much as it can into the wood fibers, and then we'll go from there. Now, I'm going to put the lid on here. Wipe my hands off. I wish they would make instructions a little bit larger. Liquid allowed to penetrate for 15 minutes. Reapply, allowing an additional 15 minutes, and then wipe the surface. So basically, you don't even have to wipe it off yet. We just basically let it set for 15 minutes, and then we can come back, and then we could wipe it off after an additional 15 minutes. But, so there you have it. It's about 30, well, we're going to call it 40 minutes of actual time, because it takes like maybe between 5 to 10 minutes to actually put the oil on. But then you're pretty much done. You do not have to actually put a top coat on this stuff. You can leave Danish oil as is without any sort of poly or lacquer or anything else. It does not require it. It is not mandatory, unlike other stains, like the ones I'll use on the cherry that absolutely need a top coat. This stuff, because it has varnish in it, does not. So a little trick there, a little air in there, because I can still use these gloves, right? So they're not bad. So I'm just going to let them set. So what I do is I pull it down here so I can get inside the heel section, and I just blow like a balloon, and I just pull my hand out like that. Neat trick, huh? When you used to do a job that required gloves all the time, you kind of learn those things. All right, last thing I need to do before we shut off for the day is I'm going to come back over here to our table, and I've got a clean bit of paper towel, and I'm just going to start buffing this wax that we had on here. Just buff this stuff off of here a little bit. And this will have a nice, like a turtle wax finish. Sort of, right? But it is going to have a very nice. It will slide very easily. You have to be careful almost because it's so slippery. If you're not used to it being that slick, things will slide much faster than you're used to on your table. But that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Hang on, I've got a towel over here. I'm just going to, or a t-shirt, rag, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just going to use that to buff this a little bit. And yeah, so it's very slippery smooth there. Now, like I said, I could go at this for another 15 to 20 minutes cleaning off all the marks on here. If I was going to sell this table, this thing would be polished. I would clean the crud out of this because there's still a few places where I should have gone over and hit. I need to, my bandsaw is not bad. I actually hit that not too long ago, and so it's in pretty good shape. But any of those cast iron surfaces, it just pays to, and that wood just slides on there now. So nice. But it does pay to actually keep them clean, keep them waxed. If you got to use Bow Shield or whatever that stuff is, you know, use that. But honestly, little paste wax, little furniture wax is awesome in a shop. These things look great. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I mean, just look at how good that looks. That's just that dark walnut stain on a piece of walnut, and it just It just looks fantastic. It just makes the walnut come alive. And I okay, what do we got in the shop here? 83 degrees, 57% humidity. So my humidity levels keep going up as I sit here. I've got fans running in here too. It's not like I'm just sitting in here with no air movement. I've got fans pushing around, but you know, when the only air you've got is thick, moist, and hot, you know, fans will only get you so far. So, all right, so I think I'm going to call it for the day. Thanks for stopping in. If you were here for any period of time and watching, I appreciate you showing up and checking out what we're doing in the shop. Like I said, the panel glue up thing and the scrap wood is, I'm trying to do some different stuff besides just always working on sewing machine bases. I mean, honestly, I get tired of them too. So, so I can only imagine if you're not doing it, how boring that must get after a while. So I'm trying to do some different things. I look at my scrap wood again, and maybe we'll do like a bandsaw box or something, just kind of go through doing bandsaw boxes, which are pretty fun to do. The big thing with these projects is kind of hard because a lot of them require gluing and leaving it set in the glue for quite a while. So we kind of always get into it and we have to stop and glue. And it's like, okay, we'll come back in 2 days later to see me do this last little thing, right? So it's not easy. That's why watching short-term content for learning how to do things is much better usually, I think, because they can time jump to, okay, it's dry now, let's take the clamps off, and it's only been like, you know, 10 seconds. Whereas here, we let it sit for 2 days before we come back to it. And much like that big giant glue up over there we did of the wood. You know what, just Google, do a YouTube search on scrap wood projects. You'll find a ton of scrap wood projects. Most of the wood I use is hardwood, which translates over really well to things like cutting boards. You don't want to use softwoods. You don't want to make like a pine cutting board. It's just, you know, don't go there. So most of the wood that I use is easily I don't know what the word is, easily applies to making things like cutting boards and such. But you know, you could just as easily, you know, gluing up panels and then making bigger boards out of them, and then use those boards for a different type of project. If you've got the wood, you know, don't just toss it out. Use it for something that you can. Look for small stuff. That's why I'm such a junkie. It's like, I might need a piece of wood this big and that's going to be perfect. And it's not, but sometimes it pays off, right? And so look for those projects. Look online. You'll find a lot of scrap wood projects by looking online. It's a search those types of things. Obviously, YouTube's going to be video content. Pinterest is going to be photo content. But it's just something a springboard for your mind to start thinking about stuff. Even if you've got plywood and stuff like that, there are plywood, scrap wood projects out there. I guarantee it. If I look up, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to look up plywood, scrap wood projects. In fact, I'm going to just pull open a window right here. I'm going to open a new window and I'm going to open up a new tab. I'm going to go to YouTube. And I'm going to just type in the search bar up at the top, plywood, scrap projects. Oh my, it popped up before I even like finished typing. Key holders. What else we got here? A phone holder. A cheese board, a plant stand. What else looks good here? Plywood, a pot coaster. I'm just trying to find different things here that people have done. Shelves. And there's some that have like 8 projects, you know, so there's a lot of them. But some of these are small, some of them are large. And that's the thing, is you could probably always find something. I love this one, the making coasters out of plywood scraps. I mean, come on, how cool is that, right? So anyway, there is a lot of stuff that you can do. Here's a coffee table that is so cool looking. This one has dovetail and half lap joints, and it's all made from scraps. Here's somebody who made a right. So there is a bevy, and that's just plywood. So like I said, just go look it up, and I guarantee you will see so many things that give you options. Wow, man, my YouTube is really behind here. Why is my feed like so far behind? That is really weird. Is my Facebook feed? My Facebook doesn't even have my page up there. Can we start this again? What is up with this? My feeds are not up. My Twitch never has a problem. Twitch, no problem. Facebook, problem. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna land it here. That's a good place. We're at 1:30. If look around your shop, look at your plywood, look at your scrap bin, and just kind of start noodling together some ideas for some projects. And it's really satisfying to turn all that junk into something cool and useful. My one tip, okay? If you make a scrap wood project as a gift for somebody, for all I can do is tell you, don't tell them it was scrap wood, okay? Don't tell them, yeah, this was out of my scrap wood bin. This is just junk I was going to throw away, and I made this for you. Isn't it lovely? No. Please, do not tell them it was scrap wood. Tell them you toiled, well, I just wanted to make something special for you, and so I looked through for some special pieces of wood that I had that, I've been saving for a special project. For God's sakes, don't tell them it was scrap wood. They'll feel this big. But if you say it was special wood you were saving for a special project, boom, now they're special. So that's my helpful hint for the day. Don't tell them it was scrap wood. Anyway, let's go ahead and get out of here. I will reconvene this circus on Friday. If you stopped in, thank you so much. If you could hit the subscribe, the like, the follow, the whatever is appropriate for the platform you're on. I will be here next Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. See